Hello, today we're going to be talking about Preschool Language Skills 5th edition, also known as PLS 5. So let's get right into it. So what is the test? This test is done in order to assess if a child has problems in their language development or if they have a disorder, so if they have a delay. And what we test for is to identify if they're receptive and if they're expressive in their language, if there's any areas that need attention, or if their gesture, play, vocal development, etc., etc. And the specifics of the test are the age of the child should be between 7 and 11. But it can be done much earlier, and this is usually done in order to mostly compare how much they've grown throughout the years. The test usually takes 35 minutes to an hour, and this is depending on the age of the child. If the child is younger, the test will take less time. If the child is older, it most likely will take longer. And the test is done in an interview format. That means that there's an administrator and there's a child, and they'll just go back and forth asking questions, while the administrator goes back and forth asking questions, and the child is going to reply to those questions. The administrator should be a trained professional, and this includes a speech language pathologist, an early childhood the specialist, a psychologist, anybody that has been trained in order to administer this test. So what is the actual test? What's the assessment? And it's just the administrator asking a series of questions, and the child is going to use words, manipulatives, or pictures in order to answer those questions. And the questions again include comprehension. They're going to ask about comprehension of basic vocabulary, concepts, morphology, syntax, etc., etc. Just basically anything that's going to make the child use their language in order for them to answer the questions. These are the tools that the administrator is going to use. Like I said, there are some manipulatives, so we can see books and colors, and there's a little bear. And then this is one of the test formats that the administrator could use in order to assess the child. So in this video, it's a 30-minute video, but I'm just going to show you a part of it in order for you to see what the actual test looks like. And I'm going to forward a little bit. So at the beginning, it's just the administrator handing the child certain colors, and the administrator wants the child to label the colors. And the child at this point is 4 years old. So I'm just going to forward just a little bit.
Give me the purple one.
A little bit more.
You know that one? It's brown.
So like I said,
You
she's
don't need to work today.
for
Good for
the child
you.
to label
All
the
right.
colors.
Look at these children. They are wearing shoes. Show me his shoes. Listen again. Show me his shoes. That's right. His shoes. There they are. Okay. Show me her shoes. Beautiful. All right. Now, show me her shirt. Excellent. Show me.
So like I said, the administrator was trying to see if she understood what she was asking, and not only by the labeling of the colors, but even just the prepositions. Show me her shoes. Show me his shoes. The administrator wanted to make sure that the child actually knew that the him, her, she, he meant different things. And then this is the scoring. These are what is considered standard. So this is what the standard score looks like. And this is an example of a child and what the child got. This is the scores. So we can see that auditory comprehension, the child got 70, and expressive communication, the child got 67, and total language score, the child got 67 as well. And based on this scoring, we can see that the child has a significant language delay and a moderate delayed and receptive and expressive language. So we can probably put this child in an early intervention program just to help the child get back on track. Now there's different bias based on this test. For example, an ELL student taking this test may still be confused by the language, and not like that they don't know how to speak, but they just don't know the different prepositions. For example, they don't know on or off or on top or bottom. And so when asking these questions and the child doesn't actually know what they mean, they obviously are going to get a low score. But if you were asked to ask this child in their native language these types of questions, they would answer no problem. So that's again one of the issues between this test. Also, dialect variations. Sometimes a child is so used to hearing a certain word said in a certain way at home that if an administrator were to say that same word but in a different dialect, they might just be confused and not actually understand what the administrator is actually trying to ask. Now, there's socioeconomical status problems. So a lot of the students who are from a lower income, most of the times haven't been exposed to a lot of vocabulary. So they just might be able to speak, but they don't have the actual words that the administrator is looking for in order to answer the question appropriately. And it has nothing to do with the fact that they can't speak. It's just the vocab, it's not in them quite yet. Now, prior knowledge. Sometimes students may have not been exposed to a lot of the things that the administrator may have been asking. Let's say we have a child from the suburbs who has been raised in a barn, and they're asked to point where the skyscraper is, and the child may not even know what it is. Or someone who has lived in the middle of the desert their whole life asking which one's the kid with the snowball, and the child may not even know what snow is. So prior knowledge definitely affects the way the child is going to answer. Cultural bias. Sometimes kids from different cultures respond to different things in different ways. Even just from the interview process, sometimes kids are taught don't speak to strangers or don't speak to adults unless you have been spoken to first. So even that culture part of it may mess with the score of the child. Motor and sensory impairment bias. Sometimes a child may not be able to see, and because the child can't see, they don't know they didn't point to the right picture, and it has nothing to do with the fact that they don't understand the language or that they can't express themselves. It's just that, they didn't, that got in their way from them actually responding in a way that they might have if they would have just had glasses. So based on this test, I think it's a great tool in order to help someone determine if a child may have a language delay, but I don't believe it's the final answer. Again, there's many biases that could affect a child's scoring when taking this test. So I think it should just be part of it and of trying to actually understand if a child needs needs to be placed in a language program. But again, it should not be the final say. Thank you.